Have you left us, Winnie? Have you left us for the duration? Hey friends, welcome back to another pizza party. I'm Mrs. Pizza, and today I'm here to hold myself accountable. But before we get into that, one, I cannot tell if this is just a giant green blur because it is overcast and raining, yet it feels incredibly bright in my glasses. So if you can't see my eyeballs, I swear they're there. I use them to read, but it might be annoying for you to just see nonsense here. And if that's what's happening, I apologize. Number two, Winnie just left. Just kidding. She's a little bit mad because her dog bed that's usually by the window is currently in the washing machine because it's been raining here for several days. And you know what doesn't smell good? Slightly damp dog beds. Yeah, no, not in my house. We're gonna wash and dry those bad boys. So she's a little pouty right now. But Winnie is down there, and cheese, that is the cheese. All right, Winnie has lowered herself onto the air conditioning vent. Hopefully that muffles some of the sound. We are here because I have an unreasonable amount of library holds. I utilize the ever-living out of my library. I love the library. I have a library within walking distance from my home, and it is my favorite place to walk to. But in order to hold myself somewhat accountable for this insane list, this isn't even all of them. I'm not showing the ones that I'm actually currently reading, but I want to hold myself accountable to reading some of these. So this is my library pile of possibilities. We're going to talk about all the books I've got out from the library right now and try and talk myself into reading them in a somewhat timely manner. There is no rhyme or reason to the order I'm going to go through these. I'm going to pick them off the stack and I'm going to tell you what I am hopefully soon going to be reading. The first book we're going to talk about is Feast While You Can. I actually saw this in a vlog by Allie from Ava Reid. She convinced me. This is a demonic possession story, but I think it is a little bit different than your usual one. One of the blurbs says, Feast While You Can is a singingly clever, gnarly tale of hunger and possession. Lesbian pulp meets literary horror, truly unlike anything else. The sexiest book you'll read all year. I'm pretty sure this is the story of a young woman who lives in a very small town, and she has an attraction to someone that is slightly off limits when she becomes possessed by a demon that lives in a hole. That makes it sound so insane. Like generations of her family before, Angelina was born and raised in an ugly remote town with little to its name. Nestled between three towering mountains, the clannish town is filled with tourists in the summer and dead the rest of the year, when most of its residents surrender to a sleepier existence. Except, that is, for whatever is lurking in the caves. This just sounded fun. Watching someone read this and truly enjoy their time obviously influences you to want to pick it up yourself. I want to read this. That's why I got it from the library. I want to read all of these. It's going to be a stupid thing if I keep saying it over and over again. The next book I have is Innamorata. I think it's Innamorata by Ava Reid. I have read, what have I read from this author? I've read at least one book from this author and enjoyed it somewhat. I think this author is incredibly good at atmosphere. I'm pretty sure this is a gothic and gruesome tale, which those are two of my buzzwords. You got me. A visionary and atmospheric gothic fantasy about necromancy, vengeance, and soul-consuming love. The first in a duology from the New York Times bestselling author of A Study in Drowning and Lady Macbeth. A Study in Drowning. That's the one I read. Once there was an island where the dead walked the earth, and the 7 noble houses ruled using the arcane secrets of necromancy. A conqueror's blade brought them low, burning their libraries, killing their lords, and extinguishing their eldritch magic. But defiant against the new order stands the House of Teeth. Its last living members are the beautiful Morazia and the heiress to the house, and her cousin, the uncanny Lady Agnes. Although she has not spoken a word in 7 years, Agnes is the true carrier of the house's legacy, and she has her last orders. She must recapture the secrets of death magic and avenge her family. This, I think, is pretty gruesome. I think is pretty dark. Love, which was more dangerous than the sharpest blade and sweeter than the last fig on the branch. Let me taste it, she thought. Let me cut myself upon it. I think this is going to be dark as hell. And it is quite the chunk. 533 hefty pages. The next book that I just actually picked up today is How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. Obviously, we're playing on How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I think this is a pretty silly, cozy rom-com type fantasy. And every once in a while, I like to read something cozy and silly on top of all of the dark and messed up I read on a constant basis. One of the blurbs for this says, a perfect escape for anyone seeking comfort, warmth, and a dash of magic. When a halfling, pansy, and a goblin, wren, each think they've inherited the same cottage, they make a bargain. They'll live in the house together, and whoever is driven out first forfeits their ownership. Amid forced proximity and cultural misunderstandings, the two begin to fall in love. But when their cottage and their communities is threatened by a common enemy, the duo must learn to trust each other and convince goblins and halflings to band together to oust this tall intruder. I think this is just going to be a silly, cozy, fun, good time, and I need some of those. I love some of those, so we needed to break up some of the more macabre nonsense I've picked up. Honestly, my librarian who fills all these out is probably like, girl, who are you and what is your personality? And the answer to that is, I don't even know. And I've been living with me for a very long time. The next book is The Reformatory. I've actually had this on my holds list numerous times and ended up, for one reason or another, canceling it because I knew I just couldn't get to it in time. And this is a very popular book in my library. So I finally thought, it's the summer, it's hot. I know this book takes place in Florida. I've wanted to read this for so long. It's time I pick up The Reformatory. All I really know about this is it takes place in the Jim Crow South in Florida, and we're following two siblings. We have 12-year-old Robbie, who is sentenced to 6 months at the Gracetown School for Boys for kicking the son of the largest landowner in town in defense of his older sister. So begins Robbie's journey further into the terrors of the Jim Crow South and the very real horror of the school they call a reformatory. I believe Robbie can see ghosts, and I believe his sister is also a point of view that's on the outside trying her best to get Robbie out of the situation. What a perfect time of year to read something that's taking place in one of the hottest places you can go. I love a hot ghost story, if that makes any sense. Like, I like ghost stories that take place in hot locations because I feel they're so much more rare. You can always find a gothic spooky story taking place in a castle in the moors in the gray wintertime. But to find something that can make the beach scary, to make hot, stifling weather feel oppressive, like, yes, that is what I want. The next book I've got on this giant, slightly tipping stack is Lost Lambs. This is another book that I've been waiting for quite a long time, and I'm pretty sure the list of people waiting after me is incredibly long as well. So this has moved up to the top of the stack. I've got to get through this quickly. There's people waiting. But I've heard this book is incredibly funny and really, really weird. One of the blurbs says, Lost Lambs is a novel that smashes apart our notions of family and human connection with a sledgehammer, and then rearranges the pieces into something weirdly, beautifully, staggeringly profound. This is the story of the Flynn family, and the Flynn family is coming undone. Catherine and Bud's open marriage has reached its breaking point as their daughters spiral into their own chaotic orbits. Abigail, the eldest, is dating a man in his 20s named Warcrime Wes. Louise, the middle child, maintains a secret correspondence with an online terrorist. And the brilliant youngest, Harper, is being sent to a wilderness reform camp due to her insistence that someone or something is monitoring the town's citizens. This sounds chaotic, and this cover is very weird, but somewhat appeals to me. The next book on our stack, The Year of the Myrrh. I think this is a stupid name for a book. In all honesty, when I heard about what this book is about, I was willing to look past that this is called The Year of the Myrrh. Like, come on, guys. We can do better than that. This is a dark, bloody, epic fantasy reimagining of The Little Mermaid that goes far beyond the fairy tale. Yummy's grandmother, Ariel, must have gotten her happily ever after, but Yummy is having a much harder time despite being next in line to rule. Her family has faced whispers and slights from its own people for decades, in no small part due to Yen's Myrrh ancestry. With Yummy's father assassinated and her mother slowly succumbing to a poisoned wound. Though Remy has been raised as the shield of the kingdom, she cannot shake her fury, despite efforts from her patient mother and her steadfast bodyguard and fiancé. Like her grandmother before her, Yummy is tempted by a deal with the Sea Witch. With such powerful and ancient magic, Yummy could avenge her family, take back her kingdom, and protect the love of her life. I love dark mermaid stuff. So a dark, tumultuous princess that descended from mermaids who has to make a deal with the Sea Witch, like, absolutely. I can look beyond the dumb name. Up next is Half City. This, I believe, is a demon hunting urban fantasy. which, though this is not a teeny book, this is close to 500 pages. For some reason, this is very jam-packed in this tiny little package. It says, Viv Abbott is an average 21-year-old girl. She lives in an expensive city where the rent is too high, works long hours at a thankless job, and is dating a guy she doesn't even like in hopes of winning her prickly mother's approval. She also happens to be a demon hunter. Ever since her father's murder, she's been forced to hunt deviants alone, meaning everyone, including her family, sees her as an outsider, until the day she crosses paths with a dangerously alluring demon. The reformed deviant tells her of a school for people just like her. If she enrolls, she'll learn to hone her craft and work with other hunters and never be alone again. But Viv has a deadly secret. Demon hunting, magic academy. Like, do you need more than that? Up next, invasive species. This, I'm pretty sure, is some sort of like nautical horror. The women in Cold Harbor all have something to prove, and they'll have to do it in a world full of monsters. Something's not right in Cold Harbor, more so than usual. While this sleepy small town has seen its fair share of monsters in cheating husbands and leering bosses, none are as hungry as Mrs. Smith. The mysterious resident has finally emerged from her crumbling mansion on the hill, mesmerizing the town people with her beauty. Her secret? 9 human sacrifices to feed her immortality. Yes, absolutely yes. One of the blurbs for this says, invasive species takes the familiar landscape of 1980s suburbia and infuses it with genuine dread, weaving together Greek legend, Icelandic folklore, and the everyday monsters of patriarchal expectations. You know you want to read it. Next up, this teeny tiny little book is Cinder House. This, I believe, is a witch book, but that's all I can really remember. Honest to goodness, I hear about a book, I'm really excited about it, and I put it on my library holds list, and then promptly forget everything I've heard about it. So it's like a fun surprise when they show up. This is also blurbed by a bunch of writers I've really enjoyed, so that always makes me pretty excited. Ella is a haunting. Murdered at 16, her ghost is furiously trapped in her father's house, invisible to everyone except her stepmother and stepsisters. Wait, is this a Cinderella telling where she's dead? Sure, I love it already. Even when she discovers how to untether herself from her prison, there are limits. She cannot be seen or heard by the living who surround her. Her family must never learn she is able to leave, and at the stroke of midnight, she finds herself back in the staircase where she died, until she forges a wary friendship with a fairy charm seller and makes a bargain for 3 nights of almost living freedom. Freedom that means she can finally be seen, danced with, and touched. It's a ghost Cinderella retelling. I'm so excited. And the last book, A Dance of Lies. Now, the synopsis for this, I feel like doesn't do it justice, because I did try and read the first couple of pages of this and was instantly hooked. And so, of course, had to pick it up from the library. A dancer turned spy must decide how far she will go to secure her freedom. Vasily Morin was once a dancer in King Ilian's court until he framed her for murder. Barely surviving her 2 years in the dungeon, she is suddenly called to face her king. He offers her a deal: become his spy at the 6-week royal gathering, and he'll grant her her freedom. As Ilian's orders grow bloody and dangerous, forcing her to harm and betray those around her, Vasily discovers that the monster she serves may be aligned with a bigger monster, one far closer to home. With her world threatened, she enlists the help of Ilian's brother and greatest adversary, the infamous King of the East. As the rivalry between brothers escalates, with Vasily caught in the middle, the horrifying truth of her past comes to light. If she wants to survive, she must decide who to trust, who to fight for, and how much of her soul she's willing to lose in the process. It sounds very run-of-the-mill fantasy romance, at least to me from the synopsis, but having picked this up and read a couple of pages and instantly being hooked, I think it's dark enough and different enough that it'll hold my attention. But that, kids, is the insane number of books that I have out from the library right now that I need to get to as soon as possible. If you've read any of these books and think I should pick them up first, please let me know. I am such a moody mood reader, but I am totally easily influenced. If you tell me you love something, it's going to the top of the list. But if you had fun hanging out with me and the dogs who barely made an appearance in this video, please subscribe. I hope you're reading good books out there wherever you are, and I'd love to hear about them. And I'll see you next time.